This is The Toss-Up, where an expert-line panel dissects the hottest stories within the world of sports. From some of the nation's strongest college programs right here in Bloomington to the games and moments that capture the world's attention, it's all right here on The Toss-Up. The bubble. No, not those little things that you make out of soap and then you just pop in the air. No, not that. I mean the dreaded group of college basketball teams whose fate all hang in limbo just before the NCAA tournament time. Indiana's men's team sat on the bubble last year and just missed the cut, settling for an NIT appearance. This time around, things will be different, maybe. Indiana is currently projected to make the cut, but anything can happen, especially with how competitive the Big Ten Conference has been so far. And we're all here to break it down for you right here on the season debut of The Toss-Up. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Joining me on the panel, we have Meredith Struan, our very own iUS TV Sports. We have got Steph Kreishnik over there from Indy Star, and then Jack Grossman, also from iUS TV Sports. Welcome to the panel, everybody. Season debut. Let's just go right off the bat. And Jack, I'm going to send it over to you to start. Home court advantage. It's the big elephant in the room. We just got to start off with that. It seems like Big Ten teams just cannot win on the road, especially Indiana. There's still Big Ten teams out there that have 0 road wins, but that home court has been so dominant. Do you have any answers for why?
First of all, we would like to thank the Big Ten scheduling lords for having Indiana go to Nebraska, so they have at least 1 road win on the season. But it's really bizarre. I mean, look at Indiana and the Big Ten. Big Ten home teams are 49-16 right now in home games. That actually has leveled off a little bit to where road teams have 7 wins in the last week and a half. But it's just really weird how Big Ten home teams have been so much better than Big Ten road teams. There's not really a way to explain it. If you look at other conferences, it's not that lopsided. I mean, the ACC home teams have a losing record at home still against ACC opponents. So there's not really an answer for it, just luck of the draw, I guess. It's just really bizarre and doesn't make any sense.
So, Steph, do you think we'll see regression to the mean, or is there a significant home court advantage specifically in the conference?
Yeah, I mean, I think you will a little bit as the season goes on. As Jack mentioned, we already kind of had. But I think, I mean, as it goes forward, I mean, it would be kind of stupid to predict that the road teams are going to start playing any better. And I don't know if that's a testament as to how good maybe or deep the Big Ten is, or just how packed it is, where everyone's maybe mediocre, but altogether, I mean, it's going to be tough to play on the road. It's weird because you would expect in the Big Ten a lot of good defense, and defense travels, but I guess not this season. That just kind of goes to show how weird this year has been.
And in response to your question, no, I don't have an answer because I have no idea why this is happening. You know, Assembly Hall obviously is a huge place to play. It's a very tough place to play for opponents, and obviously the players just really thrive there. IU players really thrive there. But it's a weird dynamic that's going on. But yeah, Assembly Hall, the fans have really come out this year, and I think it makes it tough this year, especially to play there.
Yeah, and so obviously a strength for Indiana could be that home court advantage, just the fans in Assembly Hall, and they've shown that they've got a little bit of a defensive presence, but really they've just been inconsistent, and I think that's really gotten to a lot of fans this year. We've seen a lot of backlash towards Archie Miller. But, I mean, if you want to look at the big picture itself, several very strong wins, just an overall solid record and a great home record. Do you think it's justifiable for fans to be getting upset with Coach Miller? What do you make of his performance?
I think it's justifiable just because the first year, obviously, it's not his team coming in. Those aren't his recruits. But, I mean, the longer you go, you have to produce results. He's a great recruiter, but I don't know if he's I think he's going to make the NCAA tournament, but he has a lot of fans worried just because of the inconsistency and just because they also can't win on the road, it seems like.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with patience, too, and I mean, she touched up on it. He's had a few years already to show, but I think he's at least proved to fans that he should have a couple more years, given that, as you mentioned, the recruiting and stuff like that. He's gotten better recruits the past couple of years. It's kind of looking like this year's team is going to be better. I mean, it's already showing that this year's team is better than teams from his previous seasons. So I don't know. I mean, his team struggling so much with free throws, whether it was at Dayton or here at Indiana, has been kind of weird. But I think with fans, if you give him a year or two to kind of let it develop, that's kind of when I think you can start pushing the button of putting him on the hot seat.
There's two different ways to look at this. There's one that's just this year itself, where he's taking a team that lost its two best players, its only two actual producers, and has made it to where they're at least on the bubble with, I would say, an above average chance to make the tournament. But you can't just look at this year. You got to look big picture. And I disagree. I don't think the recruiting's been all that great. Yes, he's gotten Romeo Langford and Trace Jackson Davis, but I mean, he had one top 10 class. Last year's was nowhere near even the top 20. I mean, other than TJD, Armand Franklin, I think will be a fine 4-year player, but there's not as much depth in that class. Missing on a guy like Keon Brooks really hurts. And then that next season, there's not really that much coming in. And then you look at it, losing the 12 out of 13 last year and missing the tournament when you had Romeo Langford, Jawan Morgan hurts. It's bad timing also when you ask this question with the Penn State game on Wednesday night, but it's just hard for me to feel all that confident in him right now when you look at all 3 years as a whole.
Yeah, I'll add that I'm not going to say that what Archie's done has been perfect. I go back on your point. I think that's a fair analysis of his recruiting and stuff like that. I'm just saying more so he's got at least a couple more years. I think at the end of the season, regardless of results, I don't think it's time to start pushing him on the hot seat.
And there's not going to be anything that happens at the end of this year anyways.
Of course.
With
with that contract.
Yeah.
And I mean, keep in mind, he's already up to 15 wins this season, and I mean, several.
But they started 12-2 last season.
Yeah, they did.
What happened there?
Well, I mean, the difference is you can look at this season. You've got to win over Florida State, a former top 5
They swept
team.
Michigan State, who made the Final Four last year.
Yeah. But
also beat
inconsistency
Wisconsin.
beats
Yeah,
pride.
Yeah, I mean they've had their impressive
They've had-
wins.
Yeah. Right.
It's more so the problem that's been with Archie. I mean, last year obviously it was a 12 out of 13 stretch. The problem doesn't seem to be beating highly ranked teams at home. The problem seems to be going on the road and beating a team like a Penn State or a team like Iowa or something like that, where you've had winnable games last year, this year on the road, and capitalizing on that. And I don't know if that's more so as the type of system that he runs, is that we've seen shooters just, I mean, first of all, not be many shooters on the team, let alone shoot well on the road. So it's tough to see how his system's going to pan out, but I think those wins have to mean something.
Yeah, I'm not going to open up the can of worms of three-point shooting, but the one thing that puts Indiana in a much better position to make the tournament this season as opposed to the last 2 years is that they don't have the embarrassing losses of Indiana State, Fort Wayne, Northwestern on the road last year, Rutgers on the road last year. Indiana doesn't have any bad losses, so that helps them with having the good ones that they have this year.
Yeah, that definitely helps, and we've still got plenty more to talk about. We are going to go to a break, so coming up after the break, we've got a moose loose in the studio. I hate to break it to you guys, yes, but we will hear from our very own Mike Moose Moskaluk. Too many M's going around there, but we'll try and catch him, see if we can get him to talk some more IU basketball. But we've got plenty more after the break, so stick with us.
Welcome to the first Moose's Minute of the Decade. I'm Mike Moose Moskaluk, and this season has been an interesting one for the Hoosiers men's basketball team. The Hoosiers have an outstanding 12-2 record at home, but a measly 1-4 record on the road. It's worth noting they're a perfect 2-0 at neutral sites as well. Games against ranked opponents have yielded puzzling results for the Hoosiers so far. At home, the Hoosiers are 3-1 against ranked teams, with the only loss being by 1 point to Maryland last Sunday. But on the road, they're 0-2, losing by 16 to Maryland and 15 to Penn State. Looking ahead, the Hoosiers have 2 home games and 1 away game left versus currently ranked opponents. And it wouldn't be a Moose's Minute without a little stat or two to make you sound smarter with your friends. So here they are. The Hoosiers are 20th in free throws made per game with 16.5 and 9th in free throws attempted per game at 24.2. Unfortunately, though, their team percentage of 68.2% ranks 246th in the nation. Here's another one for you. The Hoosiers offense goes from 22nd in the nation in first half points, 37.4, to 236th in the nation in second half points, 35.4. Even crazier than that, the Hoosiers defense goes from 202nd in first half points allowed, 33.1, to 43rd in second half points allowed at just 33. If they can get that second half offense going a little bit, the Hoosiers could be an absolute force in May. Back to you, Drew.
And here we go. It's game time. This one is called No Repeats. We've had it on the show before. Pretty simple game, so we'll get right into it. It's a very simple concept. I'm going to give you a question. We'll go down the line, and you can't repeat someone else's answer. So, Jack, you get to start off with the benefit. First question, IU Basketball Player of the Year, no limits.
I get to choose Trace Jackson Davis. Take the easy one off the board. Jackson Davis has exceeded expectations in about every facet except for perimeter shooting, which Archie said that was going to be a thing. Then that has absolutely not been a thing. But he's been really good in the post for IU. I would argue he's their best scorer. He's averaging over 14 points per game. He has 5-6 double-doubles. He's been really good this year for the Hoosiers. A really big boost that they needed after losing Juwan Morgan last year.
All right, Steph, I know you wanted Trace, but you got to pick someone else. Who do you got?
Well, since he took Trace as the best or as the player of the year, I'll say more towards the most valuable player. I think that's Rob Finney. His ability to run that offense and also stretch the floor to open up for Trace and Joey Brunk inside has been a huge deal. When he's healthy and when he's playing on his game, I don't think there's anyone more valuable to IU than Rob, I should say.
Indiana has not played well without Rob Finney playing well this year.
That's a good point.
All right, Meredith, those two off the board. Who are you taking?
Those two are off the board, but that's okay because I got Joey Brunk. It's a long shot, but you know what? The thing I like about him most is the leadership that he's really provided to this team. Juwan Morgan, he got off the team, and I think Brunk really just did so well in his role. I think he really took the leadership to the next level and has a great impact on the team. So I'm going to say Brunk.
All right, so now, Jack, you went first last time. You go last this time around.
It's only fair.
So that's how it works. So we're starting off with Steph. What do you think was or will be, we're going to throw that in, a past or future game, that IU's biggest win of the season?
I'm just going to kind of throw this out there. I think the win at Nebraska was the biggest win. That was their only potential bad loss, and playing on the road in the Big Ten can be very terrible for a team. So if they had lost that game, that would have been a pretty big stain on their tournament resume. I think going on the road and winning that game, I'm not saying Nebraska's a great team or Fred Hoiberg's team is a great team, but I think going out and securing that win, we're moving on forward, there can't really be any more bad losses the rest of this year. So I think going and get that win, that was huge.
All right, Meredith, what do you have?
I'm going to say a future win that would be huge is Iowa. I think they have very, very similar playing styles, very similar guard playing styles specifically, and just, I think they really resemble one another very well, and I think they can do it. I think they can.
All right, Jack.
This isn't my choice, but on the same lines of Steph, the Northwestern win at home turns out to be pretty big. Because if they lose that game against an atrocious team,
ugly game,
the wheels probably fall off of this team after the way they got beaten badly at Maryland, blew the Arkansas game. But the no-brainer here is Florida State. I mean, not only was that a big win at the time, but that's looking even better since then. Since Florida State lost that game here in Bloomington, they won 10 in a row, lost in a heartbreaker at Virginia earlier this week, but they've risen to the top 5 in the polls. That's not just a quad 1 win, that's a quad 1A win. So that's a win that's going to carry for IU, and getting it out of the league is even bigger for the Hoosiers. That Florida State win is monumental for Indiana. And when you look at their kids to make the NCAA tournament right now, that's the first thing you point to.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so now, Meredith, I believe it's your turn.
It is.
I just want the one name here. We don't have a lot of time left.
Okay.
But we get down to the biggest moment of the season. You have one shot left to win a game. Who do you want taking that shot?
Rob Finney.
You want Rob. All right, Jack, what do you have?
Do I have to choose someone?
Yeah, you have to choose someone.
I guess I'll stick with Jackson Davis then.
All right.
I'll go Al Durham then.
Al
Okay.
Durham to win the game. All right. So now, to wrap up the show, we're going to do a quick fire round. That's where the word quick comes from. So this one is going to start off a little bit of a two-part question. It's mostly the one, but Jack, I'm going to start with you. So who do you think is taking, as it stands right now, the Big Ten regular season tournament? And then a little add-on is, do you also think they're the conference champion in the tournament?
Conference champion's a little hard to predict just because it's a 3-4 day event that a lot of stuff can happen. But regular season right now, Illinois is in the driver's seat, but I actually go with Michigan State just because I think that they've kind of rounded into form. They still have the best player in the conference to Cassius Winston. I'm really high on the Illini also, but I think Michigan State's the best team in the league.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Jack. I think Michigan State wins the regular season, and I mean, like you said, the conference tournament, who knows? But I'll take Michigan State in the conference tournament as well.
All right, Meredith.
I'm gonna be kind of the underdog and go with Rutgers. They really
Rutgers.
surprised me.
Fear the rack.
Fear
That's
the
true.
fear the
You
rack.
still haven't
yeah,
lost at home, yeah.
exactly.
I will say I'll throw this little nugget out because we were talking about the home court advantage earlier. The Big Ten tournament is in Indianapolis.
That doesn't bode
That
well
means
for
nothing.
Indiana.
That's worse
All
for
right,
Indiana.
I felt like I just had to at least throw it out.
Welcome to
tried.
the
They
Subway
tried.
Hall.
Been there,
Right.
it's been there about 8 times, and Indiana's never done jack squat in it. So
All right, Steph, I'm going to start with you on this one, a little bit balance that out. Where does Indiana's season end? Is it going to be in the NCAA tournament? Is it going to be in the NIT? Is their last game in the Big Ten tournament and they're done? What do you think? Where's the season end for them?
I think they're going to make the NCAA tournament this year, and I laugh saying that because why would you bet your money on Indiana making the NCAA tournament? I think they will. I don't think they make it past the first or second round. And when you get to the NCAA tournament, it kind of depends on who you draw in that first round of 64. But I think they do make it to the NCAA tournament.
All right, Meredith.
I think they do too. I agree with Stefan, and I think they'll get eliminated in the second round. But I think they'll make it to it. Yeah.
All right, Jack.
oh boy.
Have
If
fun.
you would have asked me with a minute 8 left at the end of the Maryland game, not only would I say they'd be in the NCAA tournament, you could convince me they'd be like a 5 seed.
They did
but
play very
And now-
well. They did play well.
oh man, it's just with what they have with the 2 good wins and the fact that every win they get the rest of the way will be at least a decent win and they won't have any bad losses, they should in theory make the tournament. I'm going to say they make the tournament. They need to. I'd say they need to avoid a situation of like they did last year of they can't rely on needing to win a Big Ten tournament game
Yeah.
to make the field just because Indiana never comes through when they need to win a Big Ten tournament game. But if they can get to 10-10 conference, 20-11 overall before the Big Ten tournament, being Indiana basketball, being with the ones they have, the committee can't leave them out.
All right, so I guess we'll see how it goes down the season, but that does it for our show this week. So thank you all for tuning in, and be sure to continue the discussion on our Twitter page at IUSTV Sports and on Facebook at IUSTV Sports. You can always give any suggestions for the show and ask any questions that you might have. So toss it up and find out if we'll catch it. We'll see you next time.